I'm sorry. There was no need for that. I mean, to tell you the truth, there's never been anyone who can get under my skin quite like my brother. Oh, but if you think that was angry, you should have seen me after his thievery.
Did he? Yeah, did he storm off? I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, you weren't happy after it happened. Seething. He wanted to take me out, and I'm not even joking. Mum came to me one day and said Esau was planning to kill me. Whenever my father died, that'd be it. I think I pushed him over the edge with my joke. So I kept asking Mum, do you think he saw what we did?
Yes, I wanted him dead. And not just for what he'd done to me either. You see, you have to understand what it was like growing up. Dad was, well, weak. He was passive. And Mother made it very clear she had a favourite. Do you have any idea what that does to a boy? I didn't realise it at the time, but she even used her dislike of my wives as an excuse to ship Jacob off to safety.
See, Mum had always been really good at manipulating him. And my father, I mean. She always had this way of getting things just however she wanted them to be, you know? And she said to me I should go and stay with my Uncle Laban, her brother, just for a little while, you know, until it was safe to come back. But she said to him, my father, that she was really fed up with the freaky Hittites, you know? I mean, that's what we called Esau's wives, Judith and Basemath. She said that if I married one, she'd go nuts. So she suggested that he send me away to find a wife among our own people. Maybe to Paddan Aram, where Laban lives. Smart, eh? I mean, in fairness, they were a bit of a nightmare, those Canaanite women.
Of course, the next thing I know, poof, he's gone. Just like that. Word reaches me that Dad has sent him off somewhere to find a wife. Strict instructions not to marry a Canaanite woman. Fantastic. Stolen birthright, stolen blessing, and now I find out my parents hate my wives. Of course, I married another woman then from our own people, but it did naught to change the standing of things. No. What's gone is gone, including my brother, who I would not see again for a long, long time.
And so, a new chapter in my life had begun. And as badly as the last one had ended, this one opened in a pretty amazing fashion. Now, I've mentioned before how my family was pretty tight with God, right? But to tell you the truth, I'd heard all about him, but I didn't really know him. I mean, I'd never met him, you could say. But all that was about to change. So, it's sundown, right? I'm lying down to go to sleep, middle of nowhere. Rock for a pillow, because, you know, I'm hard. And all of a sudden, I wake up in this amazing dream. And there's this stairway right there, going all the way up to, well, heaven, I suppose. And there he is at the top. God. And he speaks to me. And he tells me he's the God of my father. And he's the God of my grandfather. And he makes some amazing promises. He said my descendants would be, well, a lot. And we would spread out everywhere. And all the people of the earth would be blessed through us. That's pretty spectacular, right? I woke up in the morning, I was buzzing. I was like, God was in this place, and I didn't even know. So I turned my rock pillar into a rock pillar, and I renamed the place Bethel. And I promised that if God did all that he said, he'd be my God. Buzzing.
I was watering my father Laban's sheep when I first met him. Jacob. Mouth agape like he'd never seen a woman before. Rushing over to help me like my hero. Can you believe he started kissing me? And he began to cry. I wondered where this crazy fool had come from, till he told me he was Rebecca's son.
Love at first sight, for sure. She was like no woman I had ever seen before. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry when I first saw her. I think I might have done a bit of both. Anyway, she ran off to get her dad, and he was over the moon to meet his nephew. Naturally.
He'd been staying with us for about 4 weeks, I guess. Daddy told me to show him the ropes with shepherding, but he already knew what he was doing. It didn't take long before I knew there was something about this boy. I'd get butterflies every time I saw him. And the feeling was clearly mutual.
I'd stayed there for about a month when my uncle says, "I won't have you work for me for free." He liked these grand pronouncements for some reason. "I won't have you work for me for free. Name your wages." Well, of course, I named Rachel.
He said he'd work 7 years in return for my hand in marriage. Though I could tell by the look on her face, she wasn't happy. Why should it be her? How was that fair? It could have just easily have been me he saw first. And anyway, it would have been shameful when my younger sister married off before me. So I reminded Daddy of that regularly for 7 years.
Those 7 years flew by, and in no time at all the day arrived. My wedding day.
When the day arrived, me and Daddy put our plan into action. I was so angry. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to warn him. But Daddy would have killed me. So I had to shut up and hide away.
Now look, I know what you're thinking. How could anyone not realise? But it was late. It was dark. I'd been drinking. A lot. It was my wedding day. And she was wearing a really thick veil.
He was so angry. He stormed in and started shouting at Daddy. I worked 7 years for Rachel. For Rachel. And you gave me Leah? Why have you deceived me?
I mean, look, the irony ain't lost on me. Me and my mum tricked a firstborn out of what was supposed to be his. Now, firstborn Leah and her dad have tricked Rachel out of what was supposed to be hers. Me. I get it. Funny.
I knew he wouldn't be ecstatic, but I thought he'd come to terms with it eventually. Would grow to love me. But instead, Daddy offered him Rachel in return for another 7 years. Now I felt betrayed. That wiped the look off her face.
So, see out the bridal week and Rachel was mine. Now those first 7 years might have flown, but let me tell you, those 7 days, they dragged. But finally, the day arrived.
Finally, we could be together. Any hope of being loved was gone.
It was perfect.
It were heavenly. It were lonely.
And then the descendants started.
The Lord saw that I was not loved, and he blessed me with a beautiful son.
Reuben,
And then another,
Simeon,
and again,
Levi,
oh, and again.
Judah.
I was so angry, so jealous. Why was she able to conceive and not me?
Do you know, Rach actually screamed at me. Give me children or I'll die. Like I'm God. So, she gives me a maidservant to have children with. Pregnant by proxy. Because that always ends well. Right, Grandma?
So Bilhah carried a child for me,
Dan?
and then another one.
Naphtali.
Well, if she can do it, then so can I thought. So I insisted that Jacob take my maidservant also.
What was I supposed to do?
Zilpah soon caught and gave us a son.
Gad.
And then again.
Asher.
I still had all the power though. Jacob loved me. I wanted my sister's mandrakes, and all I had to do was trade time with our husband for them. so desperate.
I came back from the field. The lovely, quiet, peaceful, childless field. And I was told I had to spend the night with Leah. Apparently I was currency now.
That night, God blessed us again, and I conceived a son.
Issachar.
And then once more,
Zebulun.
and then a daughter.
Dinah.
And then finally, after years of crying out, the Lord listened, and I gave birth to a son.
Joseph. 14 years. 2 wives, who gave me 2 concubines, who altogether gave me 12 children, and measured time with me in terms of mandrake plants. Happy families!